Joe Sidhu. I'm from this area. I'm born and brought up in Southall. I live on Canberra Road. 9 years ago, I was the chair of government at Beaconsfield Primary School. At that time, Berkeley Group had applied for planning permission so that they could build these 3,750 units on this contaminated land. The community came together and our school fought very hard on behalf of the children at that school and their health to prevent that from happening. Berkeley failed. They then took their appeal to Boris Johnson, who was then the Mayor of London. They no doubt made their representations using the resources that were at hand, and you can imagine for Berkeley Group those resources are considerable. This is a huge company with a huge amount of money, and they were able to persuade Boris Johnson quite easily that actually this little town called Southall needs to have 10,000 more people living in it. On that day, I remember going vividly to the GLA and making a plea to Boris Johnson that this town of ours is already suffering unbelievable amounts of pollution. Traffic pollution, environmental pollution, principally because for many decades, Southall was regarded as an immigrant community that could be completely neglected by the authorities because they didn't think immigrants would speak back. I pleaded with Boris Johnson. I said to him, Mayor, do you appreciate that what you are about to make a decision on could have repercussions for many years ahead, indeed decades, for the health of our community? At that time, we believed that in fact Southall suffered the second highest incidence of asthma in this country. Because of the density of the population here and the way in which our community was struggling to survive, those people already had severe health issues. Little did we know, naive as we were, that 7, 8 years later, we would have people not just suffering asthma, but active poisoning by chemicals which can cause cancer, like benzene, like naphthalene, like asbestos. The mere sound of those words makes most of us tremble with fear. And these chemicals are being inhaled every single day of the year, every hour whilst people are awake and whilst they are asleep. And the feeling of anger that we are picking up in this room is because it's not the folks here, with all due respect to them, very few of whom I imagine have any real link to Southall and that part of Southall. It's the people over here, and the very many people besides, hundreds, thousands of other people who are directly affected by this poison. And why should those people be blamed if they stand up and they scream and they shout about the fact that their children and their elderly folk are suffering from respiratory conditions that they never had before? Of course they don't. Look at how this meeting has been set up. There you sit, and I sit with you, in opposition to all these very intelligent, educated, and highly qualified people. And they are set up in such a way as if to be in opposition to you.
Money's not everything.
Those organisations who have been active and great respect to people like Angela Fonso and David and all the others who have been pleading for months, if not years, to be heard on this issue. To say now, how is this our meeting? This meeting was not set up in a way that incorporated your feelings, your views. It was set up so that the people behind me, with all due respect to them, had an opportunity to tell you, not to ask you, not to discuss with you, but to tell you what they are or are not doing. Some of you may get the impression, from the contributions that we've heard so far, that this is nothing more than a continuing whitewash. What we're facing is a collective statutory failure to protect the health of local people, and in that failure, each one of these stakeholders behind me has to take a share of responsibility. That means the Environment Agency, that means Public Health England, that means Public Health England, and that means our local elected politicians who have been, we understand, performing some kind of oversight over this whole debacle. Every single one of those people carries responsibility for what's happening now. that there is no surprise that there is a lack of trust between the community and the people behind it. What do we need? We need the truth.
How much is that?
We need the truth about what actually is happening, not the truth from a consultancy like Atkins who have been paid for by Barclays, but the truth from people who are truly independent. We need the Environment Agency to perform and discharge their statutory responsibility. I'm a barrister, I'm a lawyer, I understand how these things should be done, and it's not being done. It's not good enough for people to simply say, we've looked into it, and actually we hear there's a few problems and there's a bit of overlap, but in fact there's nothing really too much to worry about because the professionals and the experts have said to you, you've got nothing to fear. No one trusts them. So what do we want? We want independent monitoring. The Environment Agency must do its job and actually put that together. We must have our council who are elected representatives to do their job to actually supervise what's going on. They simply cannot fold their arms and say it's somebody else's responsibility. So keep making noise, keep being active, keep complaining, and keep asking questions. Because in a democracy, that's exactly what we should have.